Really excited to introduce you to Anna Huff. We're just going to jump right in because you guys came on time and we appreciate that. So first of all, since this is being recorded, I just want to start with a quick introduction of myself and what we're here all about. Welcome everybody to Entrepreneur School. So I'm Kelly Sinclair. My business is called KS & Co. And I recently gave birth to this little baby of Entrepreneur School.
I was like, wait, what? You did?
Oh my gosh. Actually, my baby, my firstborn, is turning 9 next week, and it is blowing my mind a lot. So I just wanted to pop over here and show you guys all. So Entrepreneur School is essentially a community and a digital space where you can come if you're a business owner and you want to learn and grow in all of the different areas. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, which we know are about a bazillion things when you start a business, it is so much more than the thing that you thought you were going to do. So we know that entrepreneurship is a journey and that you're going to need tools along the way, but it's also overwhelming sometimes when you start like searching for your own resources and trying to find a course or a blog or a podcast or something to teach you something that all of a sudden came into your world and you're starting kind of chasing that shiny object syndrome. We promise to give you a very like slow drip of things that you might need, and only one decision to make sort of every 2 weeks as far as, do I want to attend this event that this person is bringing this type of content? Do I need to learn more here? So all you need to do to make sure that you get the information is head to entrepreneurschool.ca and sign up for our emails, and then you'll get information about resources that we have for you, which are coming from myself as well as our guest experts, the community events, which we are planning for every other week. We'll probably change that schedule for the summertime because summer. And then, of course, there's some courses and other ways that you can dive in even a little bit deeper. So just wanted to share that to kick us off. And then for today, I'm super excited to bring you one of my favorite people, Anna Huff. She is a Kansas girl who I met in a mastermind program that we both took together last year. And Anna is a queen when it comes to content. And we know that content is so important in helping us to get our message out there, to get exposure, to get visibility, all of it. But it's like this huge vortex that you can go into of like, what tools do I use? Should I be on all these 8 million social media platforms? What about Pinterest? What about my own website and blog and contributing to other places? And Anna has done all of those things, and she's come up with a process to help streamline that and help you make your content even more profitable, which is ultimately the point. If we're spending all this time on social media and it's not turning into anything, I hope you were having fun, but right. So with that, I will hand it over to Anna. And again, the format is very casual. Q&As welcome throughout. If you want to put it in the chat, I'll be watching. I've got my notebook out and I'm excited to learn from you today, Anna.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kelly. I'm super excited to be here. And I had a genius thought. So after this, we need to talk because I have an idea. So just
of course
get with me. I know, of course I do, because I always have ideas. Anyway, hello. Yes, I am Anna, and I'm a content marketing strategist. I get to work with online entrepreneurs to help them build their brand so that they can make an impact and an income with content. So before I start, I would love to find out, for those of you that are here, what on a scale of 1 to 5, and I'm going to do that strategically because there's less numbers. I would like to know where you are currently with how comfortable you feel with your content marketing. So 1 being you are absolutely have no idea. You are so uncomfortable. You feel like a fish out of water. A 5 being you feel super great, or somewhere in between. So I have a guess as to where those of you that are here would say that you are, or you wouldn't be here. But I would love to know. So yeah, comfort with content on a scale from 1 to 5. Of course, Kelly is 4. Shayla is a 3. Fernanda is a 3. And
I've seen Stacy's reels. She's really good at reels.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
So my question would be, and whether you're, a 3 or 4 or a 5, my question for you would be why, well, if you're 5, it's going to be kind of hard to say this, but if you're a 3 or 4, why did you not say 4? What's the thing that you're like, I'm a 3 because blank? I am really great. I love being interactive. So I will be asking a lot of questions. That's just a part of me, but I also just really want to make sure that I understand where you're at right now, because what I'm going to be sharing with you today is going to be valuable. I think definitely whether you're comfortable or not with content, you're going to take something away from this. But it is important to understand where you feel like you are being blocked. So if you just want to tell me in the chat why you rated yourself, what you rated yourself, that'll give me some really great feedback as well. So I can go ahead and share with you a little bit about why I think you're probably rating yourself what you're rating yourself, or why you even have shown up here, right? A lot of entrepreneurs are struggling to cut through the noise on social media, whether you're doing a great job at showing up on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or Pinterest or whatever. It can be a challenge to have your voice heard, right? And if you are a passion-driven entrepreneur, then that can be a struggle, and it can kind of start to play with your mind a little bit. And we all know mindset is like 80% of what success in entrepreneurship looks like. So you probably are experiencing that, as well as you really want to just make your content do the heavy lifting for you, right? Like if you're spending so much time doing content creation, then it is important that you are not just creating content for the sake of creating content, that you are creating content with intention, with purpose, and content that is going to take you where you want to go. So that is another thing that we're going to talk about today, right? And you want to do it all while you're able to work less, right? Because we didn't get into entrepreneurship so we could be tied to our computer or tied to our phone. We got into entrepreneurship because we wanted to have time freedom and money freedom. And it's important that you are able to do that, but you can't do that if you're spending most of your time in content creation mode. So a lot of us experience these things, and it's totally normal if you are, and you're in the right place if you are. And so I want to know too, if you have ever or are currently struggling with any of these things, if you're inconsistent with your content, if you know that you want to show up consistently, but you are busy as an entrepreneur and it gets overwhelming, you might feel stuck, right? Keeping up with generating new content ideas, that takes forever. You might be trying to look at what other people are doing to figure out how they did it and reverse engineer it yourself. If any of these things are true for you, would you just drop a 1 in the chat for me so that I know that I'm on the right track? All of this is what we're going to talk about today. So this system that I'm going to be sharing with you is called the Profitable Content Formula. And there's 3 essential parts of this profitable content formula that we are going to walk through. The very first one, I'm going to tell you what the 3 of them are. Oh, that's good. I see the ones. Okay, great. I am consistent, but I feel that I am basic, and I still trying to find my target. I feel like I don't reach a lot of people. Yeah. And a lot of times too, Fernanda, our perception of what we are doing can keep us from showing up consistently, because if we feel like we're being basic, we have to go back to, where does that feeling come from? What is the thought that you're having about your content that is making you feel like you're basic, and where is that coming from? And how can we change it so that you can continue to show up consistently, right? As well as feeling like you don't reach a lot of people. Well, again, let's go back to what you're thinking. Is that true? Is it not true? And then what do we need to do, right, to reframe it, as well as implement some things strategically so that you can feel good about what you're doing. Okay, so the 3 parts of the profitable content strategy or profitable content formula The first part is sustainable foundations. And within this part of the profitable content formula, there are some multiple different things that we are going to talk about that make this up. Okay. So before we can move forward in any kind of content at all, we have to have those sustainable foundations. The second piece is content strategy. And I'm going to talk to you exactly about what that is today. And then the third piece is a visibility system. So if you think about what the purpose of content is so that you can be visible, right? And if you are solely relying on Instagram, you're not reaching your entire capacity of your audience, number one. And there are other more effective, more sustainable ways for you to be getting in front of your ideal clients. And so that is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So the first thing that I said was sustainable foundations. What this is encompassed by, and Kelly, I'm sure that this is a big part of what is included in your programs, is establishing your niche, right? And that seems kind of obvious, but you have to feel 100% confident and comfortable with what it is that what your niche is. You would be surprised how many people come to me and they're still not totally clear on exactly what their niche is. They might have some of an idea, but that is part of the work that we end up doing as well. So establishing the niche that you are in, as well as the offer that you are going to provide. And there's an additional part to this, because a lot of times we will have an offer in our head, and that offer we have created based solely on our own preferences and our own thoughts and our own opinions. And what happens when we do this, and I'm totally guilty of this too. I mean, Kelly has watched me over the last couple of years, like change and pivot and grow and learn these lessons, right? But the problem is that when when we are creating these offers from our own perspectives, we're not going to see these things succeed. We're not going to see them take off because we haven't validated them with our audience. And so something that I tell my community a lot is your content is not about you as well as your offer, right? So it all starts with having a niche, knowing what your offer is, but not just that, validating your offer and making sure that you have offer audience alignment. So what this is you are going to be doing strategic market research. This is not an ICA profile. You're going to be doing strategic market research to understand what your audience is struggling with, what they think they are struggling with, what they want. Okay. One of the things that one of the biggest, hardest lessons that I learned was you have to market people what they want and then give them what they need. And you cannot sell them on what they need if they don't realize it's what they need. Right. So a lot of times that's where the disconnect is. And so through market research, things like doing coffee chats, submitting or putting out what is it called? Questionnaire, getting, face-to-face with people, asking people what they think, whether they're people that you've already worked with or people that you want to work with or whatever. This is how we get that feedback. Okay. This is beyond an ICA profile. So if you've ever gone to Google or Pinterest and searched ICA worksheet, or, how do I figure out who my ICA is? A lot of times there are these worksheets that pop up that require you to sit there and brainstorm and basically just come up with this imaginary person and their personality traits and maybe their age and what kind of food they like to eat and all of these things, which at some point that might be very helpful, but at the core of knowing your person, you have to understand what it is that they feel like they're struggling with. What they ate for dinner last night doesn't matter, right? It's going to be more about what you can do to help them with where they feel like they are stuck in whatever niche it is, right? So that is a really big piece to understand before we can move forward with any content. Because if you're creating content solely based on your own perception of this person, most likely it's not spot on. And so it's not going to reach the people that it needs to reach because you're speaking to somebody that you've made up, or you might be even just speaking to yourself, which in a lot of ways our ICAs are a version of us, but we can't just assume that. We have to go out and validate those things. So that's what I call the offer audience alignment. It has to be aligned so that you know that what you are providing is going to be valuable. So then the next piece of this is understanding what your content value statement is. You've heard this, like your elevator pitch, who you help and how you help them. And it goes beyond just saying like, I help women eat healthy. That's not specific enough, right? We have to get so specific that we're going to break down each part of that. So great. You help women. That's a subset of people, but what kind of women do you help? Are they moms? Are they not moms? Are they young? Are they middle-aged? Are they older? How can you break that down, that demographic, and make it more descriptive, right? So this is where it comes down to, okay, well, what kind of woman do you want to help? You break that part down. And then the other part is, what did I say? Eat healthy. So there's a lot of different ways to eat healthy, right? Like there's keto, there's Weight Watchers, there's, I don't know, help me out. All different kinds.
Nutrition against food.
Right. There's
changes.
what's that, like it's like a new one. It's like intuitive eating, right?
Yeah.
There's all different ways. And so if you're just telling people that you're helping them eat healthy, that's not going to mean anything. You have to be very specific about how it is that you're going to help them. All right. So something I use inside of my group program is called the transformation driver model. And essentially what we do is we look at who your person is before they interact with you and your content. We look at what their thoughts are, what their feelings are, what they're dealing with before, and create a really clear description of that. And that usually is what comes from the market research. And then we create a clear description of what your person feels, experiences, and thinks after they interact with you and your content. And that's whether it's a program that you offer or whether it's just your content, doesn't matter. What's on the other side of it for them? And so that's a practice that we put together with intention so that we can create content that will help them get from the before to the after. Kelly, yeah.
I love that. And is it partly too like the after is also what they are after? It's like they're aware of, this is the thing that I want. And it's not just like this magical thing that happened to them by way of coming through you or interacting with you.
Yeah, it's that transformation piece. So it's really looking at how do they want to think? How do they want to feel? How do they want to be in their, well, I say in their business because that's most of my clients, but if your clients are, moms or whatever, like it could look different. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Because you're saying like, how do they feel right now and how do they really want to feel is the transformation. And then, so in that process, you're identifying actually what their problem is. That's what I'm hearing.
True.
Like,
yes.
About that problem piece, like their identified problem, not the thing you actually know is the problem, which is probably slightly different.
Exactly. It is. It's their identified problem. And I feel like the way that this exercise is set up, my clients always kind of get this like aha moment when we do it because of how it's set up. And a lot of times it's much more effective if I can sit down and have that conversation with them back and forth and say, okay, here's question 1. What is your client feeling now? And we kind of have this like a little bit of like back and forth, but it's good because sometimes we're so close to our own content, to our own expertise, that it's hard for us to get away from that. And so it's really helpful for a lot of my clients to sit there with me because I'm not an expert in their content either. So it's a great place to kind of get some of that out. Okay. So once you have these things in place, once you have identified your offer, you understand who your ICA is, and you are able to clearly identify what that transformation is going to be, then it's important for you to have some clear goals that are set for your content. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of entrepreneurs making, and it's not because it's really not their fault. Like we are so busy, and a lot of times they just don't know any better, but it's going into content creation without having a clear goal in mind. Like, why are you creating an Instagram post outside of just building awareness? A lot of times people will fall back on that. That's great. But for what awareness, right? Like, do you want to get people in on your email list? Do you want to get people into a Facebook group? Do you want to get people to comment on your post? I mean, that would be a smaller piece of it, but it's understanding and giving a job to your content. And so once we have these things figured out, then we can begin to develop the content itself, which leads us into the second piece of this, which is content strategy. And I love this part because the thing that I share within this content strategy is actually something that people really love. And so I'm going to share that with you. So I call your core piece of content, and for me, this is blog content. And a lot of people will, like, their eyes will glaze over, or they'll just kind of like check out when they hear about blogging because they think, well, that's for like bloggers, right? But blog content is very sustainable, and it will absolutely revolutionize how your business shows up online. So we call this anchor content. And anchor content is basically just like how it sounds. It is the core, it is the hub, it is the home for everything that you do. One of the biggest reasons why I got into this business is I saw too many entrepreneurs relying on Instagram and Facebook for their businesses marketing. And Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all of those things are great, but they cannot be the only way that you are going to market your business, because they are not a property of the internet that you own. That is rented space on the internet, and your content needs to live in a place that you own. And so your website, where you house all of your information about working with you and all of that, is going to be the place where you want to house all of your best content as well. And so we call this your anchor content. And so a big piece of the content strategy that I teach goes into creating and optimizing and developing that anchor content so that it can make you visible on the internet through search. Okay. And then we get to talk about then some of those other social media pieces, but I don't want to get ahead of myself yet. So part of the content, or part of the profitable content formula, is this content strategy. We use anchor content, but you might be thinking, okay, like what kind of anchor content, right? Well, there usually are going to be about 3 to 5 content buckets. These can be main ideas or themes of your content. I also sometimes will call this content pillars. These are the pieces of your content that are just, if you wrote down, like if you just brain dumped a bunch of content ideas and then you grouped those together into like groups, this would be your content buckets essentially. So the first step is identifying what those 3 to 5 content buckets are going to be for your business. Here's where a lot of people get confused, because there is information out there that I think does get a little conflicting. So some people will say, oh, well, like family is going to be one of my buckets. Behind the scenes is going to be one of my buckets. And then business is one of my buckets. Well, are you really going to commit to creating a third of your content to be about your family when you're trying to market your business? Probably not, right? You can infuse those things throughout your content, but this should not necessarily be a content bucket. So content buckets are core pieces of your business. Think about core knowings or understandings. Kelly, can you tell me what your content buckets are, or tell me, yeah, if you know them off the top of your head?
Yeah, like visibility is a whole section. And
Yep.
then like marketing is a whole section and branding is a whole section. And then I have like a just entrepreneurship. I like to talk about just being an entrepreneur and the trials and tribulations. And that's the emotional roller coaster stuff. And really where it comes into like relatability too.
Yeah. And so through the entrepreneurship pillar would be a great way for you to pull in a lot of those personal pieces. Like where you might talk about family type of things, like balancing it all and all of that, but you could still talk about personal things throughout all the other ones as well. I'm trying to think what other examples I could give you. Let's say you're a productivity specialist or something. I've used this as an example before because we have a productivity gal in our mastermind group. And so her content pillars would be something along the lines of balancing work and parenting, or balancing work and home, I guess would be a better way to say that. It would be marketing your business, I think, is another one that might be hers. And this could be anybody's. And then a third one could be like systems and scheduling and routines and things like that in your business. So I provide examples for you just to kind of help you like see how to group those things. If you can't for the life of you come up with what your 3 to 5 are, then my suggestion for you would be to reverse engineer it. So just start writing down all the things that you could talk about that would be related back to your offer, and then break those things into like topics. So if you just even like put them all in a column together and then figure out what they all kind of have in common, and then you can create your content pillars from there. And then what we get to do with that content is we get to create blog posts from those content pillars. So like for Callie with visibility, she might take a strategy that she's used and known for a long time and walk through step by step how to get featured on stage for guest speaking, right? She might do something that would just be like a guide, right? Or another post she could do on the same subject would be something like mistakes to avoid when being a guest speaker, or lessons she's learned since she's, spoken on X number of stages, right? There are 3 different types of blog content that you're going to want to create so that you can meet your readers and your audience at their place in the user journey. So if you are familiar with the user journey at all, it is how people come to know you. You bring people into I call it your sphere of influence. And then that is like them becoming aware of you. That's the first type of content. It's awareness content. You're helping them to validate the fact that they're struggling with XYZ, whatever they might be struggling with. You're helping to validate the fact that they might be making mistakes in certain places. That's where the mistakes post comes in. Things like that. This is the awareness phase. The second one is going to be consideration. And this is when you are nurturing them and you're helping them to see that you provide the answer to their solution. So this is the consideration phase. The third one is then decision. And so it's helping them come to the decision of working with you, whatever that looks like, buying your product or purchasing your services. So when you create those types of content through your anchor content, you're ready to go to do the visibility piece, which is the third part of the profitable content formula. So far, just to kind of recap, we've done your sustainable foundations, which is having a clear niche and a clear offer and understanding and knowing who your audience is. Then developing your content strategy, utilizing anchor content and making sure that that anchor content is specifically reaching people where they are along the user journey. And then the third piece of this is the visibility system. And I call this my traffic trifecta. I actually spoke on this last weekend, just this piece. And it really is a traffic trifecta, because this is the way that I was able to take my personal lifestyle blog to over 10,000 page views a month. And so what this looks like is it's a combination of SEO, which is search engine optimization for your on-site content. So this would be when you sit down to write a blog post. SEO is the strategy that you're going to be using to make sure that that blog post gets found. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that is, because again, SEO is one of those things that people will look at and think, I can't do that. I mean, the first time I ever heard about SEO was close to 6 years ago. And I literally like just tuned all of it out, because I was like, there's no way. People automatically assume SEO has to do with numbers and algorithms and all of that. Well, it kind of does, but when you understand the concept outside of it, you'll really understand how much easier it is. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the SEO like strategies that could be helpful to you if you are just getting started. So the first part of that traffic trifecta is SEO. Okay. The second part is Pinterest. So you probably have heard about Pinterest. I was a Pinterest manager for, I mean, I guess a third of the time that I've been in business. And Pinterest is a great tool. I just found that what I really was passionate about was helping people to establish the foundation, which is your content behind the Pinterest. And so that's where I've developed the system, but Pinterest is an amazing tool to be using for traffic. And then the third one is Instagram. And Instagram and Facebook, I would put them kind of on the same level, although I feel like Instagram, it depends on who your audience is, right? Like if you really know your community is on Facebook, great. We can utilize it over there. But if you really feel strongly that Instagram is where they're at, then you can do it there too. So going back to the first piece of this traffic trifecta is SEO. Okay. So search engine optimization. What is it that comes to your mind when you think of search engine optimization? Like, is there an initial like thought that pops up for you when you hear someone start talking about SEO? I would love to just know what that might be for you. Search engine optimization is actually just what people are searching for on Google. So if you think about like, what's the last thing that you searched for on Google? Like literally, what is the last thing that you searched for? Like I could go and check right now. I have no idea what the last thing I searched for is, but I don't know how many times a day that I could tell you that I go to search for something on Google, right? And SEO can be applied to other search engines because it's search engine optimization, but we kind of know Google as the search engine, right? Like some people use Bing, some people use other, search engines, and this can apply to all of those. But for the main purpose of this, we're looking at Google, right? And so what we are going to do is to optimize our content for that search, right? Kelly says, how to change my sender email address in MailChimp. And did you go read a blog or did you watch a YouTube video or what did you find?
I think it took me to, I usually try to go to the MailChimp.
Website.
Into their like help center, but it's easier to Google it than to search it inside of there.
Absolutely, right? Because it's going to pull it right up for you, right? And so this is where how a lot of people will search for things like problems that they're having, issues that they're having, things that they want to know more about. And so when you can optimize your content for that search, then that's where you can get tons and tons of traffic. And the great part about this is that these are people that are searching specifically for what you have to offer. So it takes a lot of the pressure of you having to feel like you have to go out and sell yourself to somebody because they're coming to you and they're going to, if you have a really great website that's optimized, you can optimize that and get that traffic into your funnel. Fernanda says, is SEO the same thing as Google AdWords? I don't think so. I'm looking.
I think no, because AdWords is paid and SEO is just
Yeah.
what you do
So
in the
is
back end.
Google AdWords the same as Google Ads? Is that basically what it is?
Right, because in Google AdWords, you
I gotcha.
pay for certain words that people are searching.
Oh, okay. So
That's like
Google
paying for the
AdWords.
ranking, right?
Is that
Paying
what
for the ranking of your ad on top of other people's ads, but it's
I
still
gotcha.
paid.
I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's what that would be. So SEO is not, you would use SEO is a strategy, I guess you could say, where Google AdWords is like a tool. Um, so with
Like what
SEO,
you were saying is that to optimize it, you're like, you would, for example, in order for that to play through the what I had last searched, how to change my sender email address in MailChimp would literally be like the heading on that page would say how to change your sender email address,
yeah,
MailChimp.
usually
That's
it's
how I
that
would find it.
keyword. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people will get confused because a keyword can be considered that could be considered a keyword. How to change your sender email address
Oh,
on
the whole
MailChimp.
sentence is a
That's
keyword?
what we call, yeah, we call it a long tail keyword.
Oh.
And when we get to this point, usually in the conversation, I start to relate it to Instagram hashtags because for some reason people understand hashtags a little bit better. So the way that we would use hashtags, right, where we would use like, I don't know, the word bike just came to my head. Like if you were to post a picture of a bicycle, right, you would type in hashtag bike. Well, that's one word and it's probably been used a lot. So there's probably upwards of 1 million people that are using the hashtag bike, right? But if you went to expand on that a little bit, like bike ride or afternoon bike ride, you're going to whittle it down a little bit more. And this is how you get very specific with the keywords that you're using so that you can reach a very specific audience. And so the keywords that you use within your content need to be the keywords that you know your audience is searching for. So again, this goes back to the very first piece of the profitable content formula, which is knowing who your ICA is and the language that they're using. So I don't know that I mentioned that up at that in that section, but it is really important to go beyond just knowing them and even go into what are the words and the phrases that they are using to search on Google. This is going to be really helpful to getting your content to show up. I always will tell people avoid using any kind of like jargon or terms that are specific to you. Like I wouldn't use traffic trifecta for a post as an SEO keyword because probably people aren't using that when they're searching, right? Like they're searching how to get more traffic to my website, right? Or how to boost my business's visibility or something like that, right? I would have to go in and ask my people, but you're not likely to be searching traffic trifecta. So if you have any names of like signature methodologies that you're using or formulas, like it's probably not going to be effective in helping to target those people who are searching for what you are sharing. So it really does have to stem from your audience in order for it to be effective. And so when we are able to use SEO in an effective way, then we can get that visibility. However, I will say SEO is a long game. It is not a quick and fast strategy. But if you know anything about growth, the best kind of growth, right? Growth is sustainable. It's slow and steady over time. And we kind of live in an instant gratification world, which can make that really hard. But to remind yourself that slow, sustainable growth is the best kind is an important piece. And Pinterest is very similar to what we talk about with SEO because Pinterest is a visual search engine. It is changing. I will say that Pinterest as a whole, the landscape of it is changing and they're creating different features of Pinterest that they are trying to get people to stay on the platform longer, which makes sense. But at the core of what Pinterest is it's a search engine. it's just a visual search engine. And so, and you have to put your content on the platform for it to be searched on the platform. And so, what you will do with your anchor content is you will create images that will go on Pinterest, that you will use keywords that you search on Pinterest to publish those images that link back to your post so that people who search on Pinterest can find your content. And again, it goes back to the keywords. Pinterest has kind of the same general idea where if you're doing SEO keyword research, you might as well just go ahead and search on Pinterest too, so that you can double verify that like those things are being searched. Now, the way that one might search on Pinterest can sometimes look different than how you might search on Google. I would just encourage you to kind of reflect on your own usage. A lot of times on Google, we type in like questions, right? We have very specific questions that we ask. But when you go to Pinterest, typically, I know that I do this, I type in 1 or 2 words, right? Like, because I'm looking for an idea. When I'm at Google, I'm usually looking for a very specific answer. And so there's a little bit of difference in that, but typically they kind of overlap. The great thing too about Pinterest is that Pinterest will sometimes even show up in search on Google. And so if you've ever done a Google search and you've gotten like a Pinterest board at the top of that Google search, that's because Google is saying that this is the best piece of content that we have for this search. And so a lot of times your content can rank on Google through Pinterest, and that's how people could find you as well. So it's kind of a great way to double up on some of that traffic. Pinterest in and of itself is a completely kind of different strategy in that you're going to be creating your pin images. You want to make sure that they are visually appealing, and you want to make sure that you're using keywords within the image itself, as well as in the title and the description. But what I teach is that you incorporate that into your content strategy. And then the final piece of this is Instagram. And so what we get to do with your Instagram is take that core piece of content and break it down to create multiple posts for your Instagram. Typically what I do is I tell you, if you have a blog post a week, then you break that blog post down for content for the week. So if you had a blog post on, what was the one that you shared of mine, Kelly? What was that one? Sorry. The mistakes, content planning mistakes, I think it was.
Yes.
So if my blog post was on content planning mistakes, then, and I did do this, sorry. Break it down by day on Instagram. So I did a day where I did a reel where I just talked about the 3 content planning mistakes that people make. And then I broke down that content by each mistake. So then I could create another reel for each of the mistakes. So there I've easily got 4 reels that I can publish throughout a week. I can create a carousel that goes through the main points. Or I could even create a carousel for each main point, right? And just break down each of those pieces. You can tell a story through like images or video that correlates back to that piece of content. So for me, like, I might tell you a story about a time when I did this content planning mistake and I like didn't have any content and I was totally stressed out and all of that stuff, right? It's relatable. And then you could also do a live and use your post, your anchor content as the framework for your live. And so you use it kind of as your script. You don't have to come up with any other pieces of content. You've already got it all there. It's just formatting it in different ways for people to digest it in different ways, right? They don't want to ingest your content. That would be weird. Okay. No. And so that's it. That's the traffic trifecta.
Can I just say I love this conversation, and I just wanted to highlight in case it wasn't obvious to everyone else. Sometimes, I know I do anyways, feel like content is about trying to get the attention of the people who you think are in front of you. But you're adding this whole other level of saying it's actually just for the people who are looking for it on the internet, which is a very big place. And let's be honest, if we put something on our website and prioritize the idea of having a blog and owned content over there, then people who are looking for it are going to find us, instead of being like, hey, people who are following me on Instagram, like, can you comment on this post? Like, because that feels so exhausting. And they're also just not there for that reason. People are on social media for entirely different reasons than they're searching things online, right? People are on social media more for entertainment and many, many things, numbing, like distractions, all of it. And then
Right.
they're like Googling to get an answer, like you said,
Mhm.
or to find inspiration or to like actually learn something, which is a
Yep.
more active state of mind. And those are like way better potential clients than the people who are just
Mhm.
doing this all day.
And my like tip for this would be to always promote that you have that content back on your website, even if you're on Instagram. So if there's a way that you can say, if you could share a part of what you've shared in your post on Instagram as kind of like a teaser, and then say if you want to read the other two, or to get the other two, like for me, the other two mistakes, go check out my blog post on this topic. Um, and the big part of the traffic trifecta is that we don't put all of our eggs into one basket. SEO is going to be the biggest part of this. It's really the thing that you should focus on the most, because it's the most sustainable, it's the most long-term tool. But a lot of people don't do it because it feels hard and it feels overwhelming, and they don't know how. And so it's just easier to go to Instagram and whip up a post and throw it up on the internet, right? But what happens is we do that and it feels, we get burnt out, right? We get burnt out because we're throwing up content, nothing's happening. We're throwing up content and content and content. And then what all we've done is just churn our content into Instagram, and it's not sustainable because it doesn't live very long. But Instagram can be really good because it can connect you to people who you could collaborate with. It can connect you to the people who are reading your content. It can show people kind of more of the behind the scenes, the day to day, what it looks like, to maybe work with you, or what your shop looks like, or what have you. And so I love Instagram for that, because you can build a community around it. And then Pinterest is, just another great sustainable way to get people onto your website and to get in front of people. So there's really a purpose for all of it. And so I don't teach just one way. A lot of times you'll find content strategists or bloggers that'll say, like, just go Pinterest. SEO takes too long. Pinterest works. Or just go SEO because Pinterest isn't reliable. It's constantly changing. I don't agree with that. I think you need to kind of diversify what you're doing, but you have to do it in a sustainable way. So SEO is kind of the first step in that, which is what I teach.
So speaking of sustainability, what do you recommend as far as like a content creation flow? How much time should people be spending doing it out of like percentage of time they're working on their business?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different approaches. The first one would just be to set aside like a morning or an afternoon to batch your content, create your content for like the week ahead, or the upcoming week. Usually you have to kind of start and then you can get ahead a little bit. So taking, usually it shouldn't take you an entire day. If you're using this approach where you're creating the anchor content, which is the blog post first, and then breaking it down for your social media content, then you should be able to get that done in a morning or an afternoon. But what I also find is really effective for some people to do it is when they batch create their anchor content. So batch creating blog posts by doing that flow, and then going through and creating like your social content maybe from week to week. But then that way the core of what you want to talk about is already there.
I love this idea because I keep going in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, I need to build a blog, and Anna's like been on me for a year and a half.
I know.
But
Okay.
do it, just make the blog. But then I'm like, I created a flow that was like social posts first, but if you switch it and add in the fact that for me now, I have a team. If I make a blog post,
Yep.
they should be able to easily pull it apart
And
into multiple pieces, right?
that is the best thing is, and that's what a lot of my clients will do is I say, all you have to do is create the blog post, and then your team can take it and put it on Instagram, put it on Pinterest, put it on wherever they want to put it. And it's all you because you've created that core content. The other thing that you can do too is eventually like hire a copywriter, have someone write those pieces for you. You're the expertise, you're the final say, but you ultimately, get a step away from that. But if you have the right systems in place, you can do that.
Bernadette is asking about frequency for your blog posts and Instagram posts.
Great question. So I don't have a black and white answer for you. Typically I would recommend doing a blog post a week. What happens is if you blog more frequently, you're going to expedite the possibility of growing your traffic. So if you start blogging one time a week for like a month, and then the next month you up that to 2 times a week, then you're going to 2 times. The idea is that you're going to then get twice the amount of traffic, especially if you're using these strategies, which traffic is visibility. Visibility can lead if you and the other piece of this is having your funnel set up correctly on your website, right? So making sure that you're not just getting people popping in on your website and leaving, like, bouncing off of it. You want to get those people captured and into your funnel. That was for blog posts. For Instagram posts, I think consistency, this goes for blogging too. Consistency is more important than anything else. And so whatever that looks like for you, if it's every other week for blogging, then that's what you have to start with, right? And then as well as on Instagram, like breaking that down, if you're going to do a post every other week, then maybe you're posting 2 or 3 times a week on Instagram. I would say Instagram stories are big, like you should be on them every day. But again, I know that Instagram can burn people out. Like I get burnt out on it myself. So that's why having the blog strategy as your core, it will allow you not to rely so much on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, Kelly, we can. Okay, so Kelly, I'm just going to be transparent. Kelly sent me a DM. She's like, are we going to brainstorm topic ideas as a group? Yes, let's do it. I love it. So do you want to share, anybody that's watching, do you want to share with me? I know Fernanda, I see you, so I feel like I keep talking to you. What is your like niche? What is your core offer? Could you share that with me? And then we can kind of come up with some blog post topics.
Yeah, I work as professional organizer. Like I'm kind of starting again here. As I said in the other workshop, I'm originally from Brazil, so
I love it.
I'm redoing everything here. I'm not sure yet about my niche, but what I'm thinking, like studying and everything, will be more like busy moms, because most of people that I had worked with are moms who work full time. And yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty niche. I mean, like organizing your home, right? Is that what it is? Organizing your home? Because you could be, I guess organizing your finances and organizing your digital, does that, all of that kind of stuff also apply?
Finances, no, for me at least, but for me, it's home and office, and the office part could be documents and photos and digital, but I like more the home part and some kind of documents.
Okay, I love this.
I'm gonna focus on home because I need to focus on something first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, start with home. And you could even go a little bit more like you don't have to, but you could go a little bit more niche, like organizing kids' rooms, organizing closets, organizing pantries. Each of those could be a blog post in and of itself, but then each thing could be broken down even more. So I'm going to throw some ideas at you. And it's because this is a topic that I am at least familiar with, right? Because I have a house and kids and da 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 da. So I would say for you, well, okay, if we're using the framework, then you're going to make sure you understand what the moms that you're targeting feel like is their biggest struggle with organizing. Now, for me, it's organizing the kids' backpacks and papers and shoes and clothes and socks and all of those things. So if you were going to use me as an example, then you might start with organizing your drop zone. I would even do like five simple ways or 5 simple strategies for organizing your drop zone, or avoid these mistakes. Hold on, I gotta think about this for a second. Avoid these organizing mistakes or something like that. That's not very good.
But I got the idea.
Yeah, you got it. Kelly, how to leave the house without screaming at your kids. Yeah. Yeah, like simple, effective ways to get out of the house on time. Like, what would you say organizing wise that would help people get out of the house on time so they're not running around trying to find, the soccer ball or the cleats or whatever. Like, I don't know, just whatever it might be. And then I was just gonna look. Kelly said the seasonal clothing switch. Honestly, Fernanda, there's so much that you could do. Like, you could even go into types of containers to organize, like the best types of containers to use, labels, how to label, how to purge, how to ways to donate if you're organizing and getting rid of stuff. You could put out like a schedule for like the time of, throughout the year, like here's what to do for organizing. So do it like seasonally. Your content really probably will be driven a little bit seasonally because like I don't know if you're in the US or in Canada, but
Canada.
So if you guys go back like in September, right, to school, so that's going to be kind of the time of year that you're going to start, maybe, well, even before that, you're going to start creating content around getting your home organized and ready for the kids to be back in school and what that looks like. So that would be a great time probably to do the drop zone. Right now, probably not so much because we're kind of burnt out on all of that stuff. But thinking in terms of like what does summer look like, maybe organizing, your home for summer, getting maybe cleaning out your refrigerator and organizing your refrigerator because your kids are going to be home all summer and they're going to want snacks all day, every day. Right. That would be a really good place to start. The other thing for you, I like have so many ideas. Pinterest is going to be huge. So you want to make sure you're on Pinterest if you're not already, because that's where people are going to go to search for ideas. Your blog content is going to be huge because that's how people are going to find you. They're going to get a lot of ideas from your blog content. And I would also encourage you to explore how you could also have affiliate marketing be a part of your monetization strategy, because affiliate marketing for you is going to be super easy. You can go Amazon. You can go Like to Know It. Amazon, I think, would be easier to start, but Like to Know It is another one, or LTK is what it's called.
That would be like a kind of my store on Amazon for okay.
Mm-hmm. So if there's like organizing products or just like household, ways to just clean things up or spruce things up or keep things organized, that would be a great place to put all of that. The more traffic you get, the more money you'll get from that.
Okay. Yeah, I saw some people they have, but I never really thought about. For now, I have like I'm doing daily posts Monday to Friday, and if I have something on weekend, I do, but I don't feel like I need to do Saturday, Sunday, so I prepare for the week, and I'm trying to do like on Fridays, every Friday, I've been posting a tip of organization product, like the picture with the product in use. On Thursdays, I've been doing what I call organizing ease, kind of love ease, that the cartoon, the old cartoon. And I always try to put like as a benefit, like I put a picture of some project and organizing ease, blah, 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 saying a kind of a benefit. And on Wednesdays, I've been putting like a before after pictures of projects. And Mondays and Tuesdays, like Tuesday, I try to do something inspirational, like a reflections about organizing, clutter, and things. And Monday, like I made a session like how to fold things, like one day how to fold towels, how to fold sheets, how to, but I don't know, I feel that I'm kind of in the in the right path, but I need to improve much, much, much. But I don't know, like I don't feel that I reach people, so I'm not sure if the pictures are not good or.
Yeah, Instagram is an interesting thing. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about is Instagram.
Yes, yes, sorry.
I would really encourage you to start looking at creating blog content. And I have some resources that you could check out because I think you're going to find that you'll be able to get more visibility that way. Not faster necessarily, but just it'll be you'll walk away feeling a lot less like stressed and overwhelmed and less imposter syndrome because you're going to be focused on your own stuff. And then you can easily repurpose it over to Instagram.
Yeah, I like the blog idea. I have a website as well, and I have prepared in Portuguese. I made some posts, but since I moved, I stopped it, and it's been a while, like years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think that you're like totally changing the way that I'm looking at content too. And as someone who's been doing it for like 5 years, it just feels actually so much more approachable to think about the small pieces, like they're longer maybe, but more in depth, and really a great opportunity to showcase then your expertise and build that credibility, which is important in doing a blog post even once a week. So say there's 4. So you'd write 4 blog posts instead of thinking I have to write 20 Instagram posts. Like right away, that's just better to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then the Instagram posts or videos or whatever can be inspired from. Because I know a lot of people do like that kind of idea, Fernanda, of a theme every day. So you have a bit of something consistent to help guide you as the content creator through that. But I'm kind of getting that maybe that's like less important than having just a full on like blog that then just gets broken up into other stuff.
And I think Instagram is interesting in that like you kind of do have to keep up with like the trending things. And so for Instagram, it's going to be reels. And so if that is something that you're posting every day, but you're doing like static posts, it might be better for your account. Instagram's just a whole nother thing, but it might be better for your account to do 3 reels a week than it would be to do a post every single day. And those reels get created based off of your blog content. And even the easier way, I've seen some people do this too. And it kind of depends on how comfortable you are in front of camera, but that's a big part of marketing your brand, like getting your face out there, because people don't buy from brands, they buy from people, right? Is taking your blog post, turning it into like a video, like doing it live as a video or recording yourself talking through all of the points, and then having either someone on your team or yourself breaking it up into bite-sized pieces so that you can use that as real content. It's another good way.
Anyone else want to brainstorm their content topics? You can even just put your niche, and
In the chat. Yeah.
I know Stacy's a nutrition coach, but I'm generalizing. A chaos coordinator. Nutrition, a chaos coordinator.
Okay. Yeah, so like nutrition, depending on who your audience is, right? Because it kind of differs based on whether it's women or men or kids or elderly people. Like you would want to just make sure first that like your nutrition content is very specifically targeted towards that. But you could even do like this is the topic that I'm less experienced with. So I'm going to say some things and it might not make sense. You know, different breakfast ideas to get X number of like, you know, if you're like counting macros or something like that, you know, different breakfast ideas for that, or ways to different protein sources. You could do posts on that, or, I'm trying to think what else, like what not to do, not to post, like mistakes are usually really good ones. So like, Kelly, how to eat well and still drink wine. Yeah. How do you do that? You know, ways to plan and prepare your meals so that you can stay on track. What are you laughing at? Are you laughing at your post?
Like, it has to be possible.
Yeah, it has to. It is. It's totally possible. Anything's possible. It's just your mindset. And then I'm trying to think if I can give you any others. Oh yeah, I was saying like planning, like meal planning and meal prepping. Maybe different a post on like tips for shopping your produce section at the grocery store, or maybe how to stay on track on vacation or something like that. There's lots of ideas, and it really does depend though too on what it is that what your offer is. So if your offer is specifically for helping people eat well on vacation, or not, you know, lose track of their habits on vacation, then that's where your content's going to be focused, right? Like specifically there, because that's the people you want to target. And I'm totally pulling that out of the air. So it really goes back to what is your offer, because we could talk all day about all the I couldn't talk all day about all nutrition things, but you could, and I could pull all kinds of ideas out for you, but it wouldn't necessarily all be profitable if it's not tied back to your offer. And so that's where the profitable piece comes in. Amber is online business assistance for small businesses or startups. That is a super good one. So ways that small businesses can be organizing different things, ways that it would, I guess my question, Amber, for you would be, what do you assist most businesses with? What do your offers look like? And you might just be general assistance, but you kind of have to like at least put the picture in someone's mind. So talk like looking at online businesses and where they struggle, right? What do they need help with? Is it like managing their email inbox or managing their calendar or things like that? Well, that's where you're going to start providing with some value for them. What I saw. Oh, Shayla said she's a chaos coordinator. I need you in my life, because not today, but yesterday I didn't get my kids out the door until like 20 minutes after school started. So that was fun. It was chaos in my house. Yes, it was. Oh gosh, there's so many things, right? Like schedules and routines I mean, I think even organizing could be a piece of that, right? Because how do we tame the chaos in our lives? Like making sure that things are where they need to be, entertaining your kids. Let's see. Shayla, if you can give me some more, I can, and holding people accountable. Yeah. So like setting goals and how to track them. I would guess that would be part of it.
Can I throw an objection at you, Anna?
Yeah.
That if we spend a lot of time creating content that teaches people how to do something, how are they going to then pay us to do it?
Yep. People are going to pay you to do it because they're going to want you to do it, or they're going to want you to walk them through it. They're not going to pay you to tell, like, the content that you share doesn't necessarily matter. When they pay you, they're paying you for you, to have you as the guide and the experience person, right? There's people who are going to read all the stuff and they're going to go, okay, I'm going to do this on my own. They might try it and then go, nope, I need help. And then they're going to come back and ask for help, right? But there might be people who are going to, find your content and go, oh, okay, well, I figured it out, right? Those aren't your people. And the other piece of it is, like, if you're giving them bits and pieces, like right now, I'm giving you my framework, right? But I'm giving it to you in bits and pieces. And if you went to my blog and read my blog post, right, like, you might get more, but you're gonna have to put it all together for yourself. And so when someone pays you for your expertise, they're not just paying you for you, they're paying you for the fact that you're going to present it on a platter essentially to them and help them through it. And so as like a coach or a guide or a mentor or whatever, that's part of the value and what they get from you. Was that a good rebuttal to your objection?
Totally. So basically, like, it's that whole concept of, you can, first of all, never give too much away, because
yeah. And if
the purpose of your content, like you were saying at the beginning, that your content needs to have a goal. Well, the goal is to establish your authority a little bit, that you actually know what you're doing, and give somebody enough of a taste of that to go, okay, she's cool, I want to work with her.
I would even say it goes even as far into your mindset, which is a big part of how you show up for your business. If you are coming from a place of, I'm afraid to share too much, then you're coming from a scarcity mindset, which is not going to get you any clients. It's not going to sell your services. It's going to probably do the opposite. So I always say serving and coming from a place of abundance is what's going to get you the people. People are attracted to that. That's what's magnetic. If you're like, no, I'm going to keep all my resources to myself and you have to pay me in order to get my secrets, people are going to feel like you're being that's where this like sleazy sales stuff, I think, comes into play. Okay. Abundance is magnetic. Yes, it is. Amber, thank you. We help businesses become more efficient. We help with platform setup, social media, email, websites. We help with their systems or processes to revamp them. Okay, so that's where I would start with all of your content. Social media. If you're optimizing social media platforms, write posts that have to do with how to do that, how not to do that, ways that your services can help them save time or whatever the issues are. Again, same with email. How to, how not to, how you can help with that process and save them time or save them stress or save them money. Yeah. And then Shayla says, so do you have different packages or what does your service look like? I'll tell you about that in just a minute. Is that okay, Kelly? Can I share about that?
Yeah, for sure, because it totally helps carry through the example of like you talking about stuff, but then at the end of the day,
that's true.
What you offer.
Okay, I was just making sure I didn't miss any other questions. Stacy did say, I like the idea of a blog post and reusing it a bunch of it in post. Yeah, it makes it way easier to do more content. So my offers, I have kept mine very simple. I have 2 offers. One of them is one-on-one coaching. So we will walk through like this whole process. You come up with your content plan, you get my support, all of that good stuff. That's a 12-week package. That is one. And then the other one is a group program. It is called Blog Like a Boss, and it walks you through a lot of the same parts and pieces. But it's more for somebody who maybe just wants to learn the process, but doesn't necessarily want the one-on-one. And so that comes with like weekly group coaching, and there's modules that you can work through on your own with that program. So those are the two that I have. Yes. Okay. Any other questions? How did you get to 11,000 followers on Instagram? I've been on Instagram for a while. I was an influencer for a while. I was doing home decor. And so I did a lot of like, well, when giveaways were a thing, I was doing giveaways for a while, and that was a big part of it. Now, are all of those people my ideal audience? No, but they'll leave if they get tired of my content, right? And if you go back, like you can see, if you scroll back, you'll be able to see all my home decor content. But I left that there because it's real. It's what it was, right? So that's how I got started where I'm at. You're welcome. Anybody else? I'm here. I would love to help you with any questions you have.
Maybe you could go in just one more time on the whole content buckets thing, because you were talking about what they are and what they're not, because there's still themes, like content themes might fall underneath a bucket, basically. Like the whole idea of like you want to, if you want to share a little bit of that personal stuff and bring your family into it, or just have make sure your personality is part of it, like that's not a bucket, but it's just like another lens, like a theme or a filter or something like that.
Yeah. So really your content buckets are like your areas of expertise. So like, if nutrition is the overall area of expertise, well, how does that break down? Like, what are the parts of your expertise of nutrition? There's usually somewhere around 3 to 5. I typically will tell you to keep it to 3 because 5 gets kind of confusing. It can be kind of overwhelming. Usually some can fall under another one. So 3 is kind of the perfect place. It's really, does that explain it a little bit better? So like when you're providing examples, or when you're, feeling like you want to refer to anything that has to do with like your personal life or whatever, that can fall underneath one of those buckets. But here's the thing, it also doesn't have to, and some of your content cannot fall underneath those buckets. As long as the core of the content that you have there is directly tied back to your offers, then you're going to see progress. But the problem is that when people will use their blog as sorry, I have something in my mouth. People will use their blog as a journal, and they'll talk about their family life and their weekend plans and what their dog ate for dinner and stuff like that. And nobody wants to read that. So keeping it really tied to your offer and to your niche. Sorry, dog.
Yeah. So it's like sprinkling those things in, and maybe just even in the area of like Instagram in particular, because there's plenty of ways to do that on Instagram.
Yeah.
You've got stories, you've got reels, like you can make short form content that captures those pieces if they're important for you, to make sure that you communicate, or you just feel like sharing photos from your weekend. That's okay too, because again, that's you're a person, but somebody's not coming to your website for that. So just kind of distinguishing the platform,
right,
the content.
And I would also say that, like, I think a lot of my clients, I've heard them say, okay, well, how do I like infuse my own like creative voice into this?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I've always done it, and I think the best way to do it, is to just write like you talk. So while you are going to write kind of technical because you're sharing like information, insert your personality into that, because just like you were maybe working with a client or teaching somebody, like you're not gonna sit there and be all prim and proper and like say all the right things, right? With the way that you would pronounce something, spell it like you would pronounce it, right? Or if you're going to stretch out a word, if you're going to say something, never to do something, then you might type out never, like though there are different ways for you to break the rules, I guess, if you will, of like grammar, so that you can showcase your personality, if that makes sense.
Just dropping your links into the chat to make
Yes,
sure that
thank you.
everybody stays in touch with you.
The best place to, so you'll see this on my website, is I have a free Facebook group where I try to go live a couple times a month. So like every other week, and we'll do challenges and things in there. And so there's good resources in there, and it's a great place to connect with other people too. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
wrap us up. 222. That must be good luck.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's 322 for me. So it's like, wait, 222. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. Time zones. We're from all over the place. We got
know.
kind of coast to coast here, I feel like.
I know. Where is everybody from? I want to know.
Yes.
Before we leave.
I know Fernanda's in New Brunswick. Calgary.
I'm from Ponoka.
Ponoka.
Is that
Alberta.
in Canada?
In Alberta, yes.
Canada.
Calgary too.
Calgary too. You're all from Canada. I'm the only American. What?
That's okay. We still love you.
I know. Thank you. That's awesome.
I did have one question, actually. I just thought of it, but
Sure.
is there any kind of like in regards to writing a blog, like a certain platform or software that you use to write your blog?
Oh, good question. So I publish my blogs on my website. So if you have a website, then it would be through that first. So like WordPress, Squarespace. WordPress is usually the best kind, but can be kind of hard for some people because it's really like code heavy, and I don't do any of that. So I hire someone to help me with that. And so it really kind of depends on where you're at too in your business. But I do all of my blog like the writing of it in Google Docs, and then I just move it all over when I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. That was a good question.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Well, I put all Anna's contact information here in the chat so that you can stay in touch with her. And if you think of a question, I'm sure she'd be happy to respond to you, especially on Instagram, the DM,
Absolutely.
where the friendships are made.
Yep, it's the connector place, right?
Exactly.
It's good to be with you guys. Thank you. I hope you guys took something away from today. And please, let me know if you have questions. I'm happy to help support you.
And before we go, I just wanted to do a little plug for the next Entrepreneur School event. So
Excellent.
Our next one is on May the 18th, and it is with Jennifer Lyle. She's an intuitive business coach. She's going to do, so anybody who like leans a little woo in their business are totally going to love Jennifer, because she will probably do like an energy clearing and help you kind of remove some of the stuff that's actually blocking you from being showing up, confidently as yourself online in your business. And sometimes it's not even about online, you guys. I've literally had a bad week, and it plagues you. Like I'm sitting there having my lunch going, I suck, nobody cares. All this stuff just comes into your head all the time. So, I mean, embrace it. And then, we can like do some stuff and get it out. And so that's what's happening there. You can register for that at entrepreneurschool.ca. In fact, our entire schedule for the rest of like the spring until the end of June is already up and there. So you can sign up and get the reminders, put it in your calendar now. And we have some really great speakers coming up. I'm excited to introduce them to you. I'm excited to continue to stay in touch with you all through our platform. And thank you for being the very first class to show up live, and bring a friend next time. That'd be great.
For sure. That's a good idea. Yeah. Invite a friend.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
So thank you.